So right now I'm going to teach everyone how to make a diagram in Rhino3D. So right now I have a student's project that I replicated. Um, First thing we're going to do is that we're going to make a sequence, which I've already made for everyone. So this is a sequence diagram. In this case, I'm talking about how the form is created. So as you can see, we start with two towers. Then there's these lines right here, right, that I forgot to add. So you can click on these. Click on the bottom right here and change their layers. So I'm going to change their layers to just a sequence right here. If that doesn't work, right, your other option is to look for the properties. So it's this little circle thing right here. I can expand this and change the layer just by clicking, as you can see. So actually I'll adjust my viewport. So I'll click this, move it, adjust it to how people will see it on a default Rhino setting. Like that. Okay. And then in this case, I'm just talking about how the form was created, right? These are the sequences, the steps it takes to create the model, right? So you want to change the colors, right? All you have to do is click on this color right here, the square. You'll be given an option of what colors to pick. In this case, I'm taking colors from the Pantone website 2026 awards. All right. And what we're going to do right now is that we're going to create a layout. So I can actually demonstrate this. So we'll go to new layout. Right. I'll call this diagram. Change it to 11 by 17 landscape. Press OK. Right. So here's the layout. Now, right now it has my viewport set to the, what is it? Sequence diagram. Don't want that. I'll make a new layer right here. Drag that out. Move it down. I'll rename this as viewport. And I'll change its color to green. Set it to green. Right, so now it's green. If I want to hide my viewport, I click off of my layer and I click on the light bulb. Right, really useful. Now, first thing I'm going to do is create these construction lines. So I already have a layer called construction line, and I'm going to create margins. So I'll take a rectangle, right? I'll offset this rectangle by roughly 1 inch. Make sure your layouts are set in inches. So if you're unsure, you can look down here. And if it's not inches, you go to options. So right now I'm on PC, but if you're on Mac, then the view will look a bit different. You can always double click right here or right click right here, take unit settings. It'll bring you straight up to your menu. Navigate to layout and change your units to inches. You can also do feet and inches. For precision, I'll set to just 1/8 is all right. Cool. Now I'll split this into 3 parts, 4 parts. See if this is in the middle. There we go. And I'll also create a new layer called layout. So I can, and I'll bring my viewport into the layout so it collapses in with it. And I'll create a text channel, text layer, move into layers. And ideally, I like to have black set at 20% value. And the reason why is because black should be reserved for diagrams, for text, for anything I'm highlighting. Any other color is just whatever. So I have my text layer. I'll type in the command text. Right. It'll bring this up. And for now, I'm going to type in, I don't know, form diagram. Form diagram. Right. If you want to adjust your diagram settings, there's always the property tools right here, the rainbow circle. Or you can just double click on this and it'll give you the edit text box. can change your font. You can rearrange how your text should be located. You can even change the height. So right now I'll set the height to about 0.1 of an inch, right? Call form diagram, and below my form diagram, I'll create another text called scale. Scale is not to scale, right? Put a little space. Cool. And then I'll make another channel, another layout. Oh, sorry, not layout. Another layer called lines. Again, same color, same color. I'll do this, set the midpoint. Oh, made a mistake. Move this a bit back. And then I'll call this 0.1. I'll make this about 1.5, 0.15. Because this will be our first diagram. And to give line weights to your lines right here, you want to turn on print display. But before I do that, I'm going to adjust the print width. So I'll adjust it to 0.3. Type in print display. Set my print display state on. And now you can see your line weight. Now this looks a little thick, so I'll click on this again. Change it to maybe 0.13. And press enter to keep my print display on. And I'll take the corner of this, align it here, move it up by maybe 1/2 inch and across by 1/2 inch. There we go. And for my viewport, I can move my viewport into the section. Take this arrow right here and like that. There we go. So that's our first diagram viewport. And what you can do is that you can copy this, press M to move, and you can drag this along. Select again, Control C, Control V to paste, press M, right? M as in move, take the edge or the corner and move it down again. So we basically duplicated our viewport, and then I can change my numbers and the name. So I'll change the number to 2. And I'll call this diagram program diagram. I'll call this environmental controls diagram. Drag the line. And same thing. All right, so now to leave your layout, all you have to do is select one of these view tabs. So I'll go back to perspective. All right. And this is what I see in my model space. If I go back to diagram and I double click on my viewport, I'm basically looking at my model space from the top view. If you want to turn on because right now we're in shaded frame right now. If you want to turn on solids to see solids, you click on the collapsible right here and press shaded. If you want to switch your angle, switch the view, you go to set view, maybe to perspective, right? This is your perspective. If you want an isometric view, make sure you select all your objects that you want to be displayed. Go to set view, isometric, and pick one of these views. I think this is northwest, if I'm not wrong. All right, northwest. Okay, cool. Type in ZS and press enter, and you'll get this. Right. Now, if you want to lock your screen so you don't move it, double click, go to the properties and look for locked. It's like that. So now I can't move my viewport. I can only move what's in my layout space. Now, one thing I haven't mentioned is why is my layout white when the default layout is a gray color? So if you want to change it to a white color, so it looks just like the paper you're printing, you go to Tools, Options, look for Appearances, collapse that, select Colors, and look for Layout. So this is where you can change your layout color. So if I want it black, it can be black. If I want it blue, it can be blue. I have it white for now because that's the color of the paper I'm printing on. Press OK. And what we're looking at right now is that we're looking at a shaded view of our diagram right here. So if we want to change that, make it nicer, we can set it to Arctic view. Right? And this is the lazy way of making diagrams, right? We don't want that. So I'm going to show you guys how to make a 2D drawing of the sequence diagram. All right, so right now we're back at our layout. What we want to do is that we want to collapse this, set the view to, let's say, isometric northwest, press ZS, and we're going to type in the command make 2D. All right, select the objects we want to draw, which are these, press enter, right? And what we can do is that we can also group them by color. So from input objects, we can do maintain source layers, right? Select scene silhouette, so we can select silhouette, and we'll call this our layer name. We'll call it diagram make 2D. So we can actually find it once it makes the layer. And then we can also group our output as well. I'm not going to do that, and then we'll press OK. So where did this spawn? If you double click here, go to top view, spawn somewhere right here. Cool. Now, what does it look like? It looks like this right now. Now, because we maintained our object source, we can actually select our curves by their color. So right now we have scene silhouette right here. Select that. Wind catcher right here. This is our scene silhouette. Okay, this is stuff we're going to have to make our silhouette for our profile lines for our drawings. Okay, so we can set that to black. Cool. And if the colors are not changing, you can always change the color to their layers, display color, display mode view, display type by layers, right here. They're all right here. Okay, cool. Now we have our sequence. So these would also be in black as well. So we can set to black. It's the color right here, black. And I'll merge these two layers. I'll put them in our layout. Call it diagram. Make a new layer. Call this profile line or our heavy line. That also works. So I can select this, and I can select this and change their layers to heavy, right? And then I can just select this to double check, select the whole thing, and then delete it because we don't need these layers. 15 objects selected. What am I at? No to all. What am I also selecting? Don't know. Okay. Now for the wind catchers, these are our elevation lines and the lines inside. We'll set that to gray. So we can rename this. Call it our medium line. Medium. Change this to a dark gray. Set this value to 40. And then I can move it right underneath here. And then these are our sequence. Are they repeating again? Looks like they're also part of our medium line. So we can just select this. Again, move them all into medium. And then this whole thing I can just delete. Right, there we go. Now we have a few options. We can keep it as the sequence, or we can actually move these guys into a straighter line. Set this to 100 or 80. And I'll just repeat this whole step. All right, so this is what I've made. And if I go to diagrams and I double click on this, unlock it, set the view to my top view, and change the plan, change the diagram from, I don't know, to wireframe or shaded. I can zoom out and find my diagram right here. If I want to center this into my viewport, I type in zoom selected or ZS, and it'll look like this. Double click it. We can lock this first and double click out of it. Now, if you need to have a certain scale, you can always double click, again, unlock, and then you have your feet to inches. Right now my layout's is in inches. So basically 1 inch right now is equal to 66 feet. We don't want that. That's up to you. You can have this at 70 feet, right? Or 80, up to you. Since this is not to scale, I really don't care about scaling up this properly or having it have a particular size. So again, I'll just type in ZS to get most of the viewport. Lock this, double click out. Now, right now it doesn't have any line weights because I did not add any line weights to them. I just changed the colors. And since print display is also turned on, we can go to print width and select our thickest line, which is our profile line. And the next thing should be half of that value. So maybe 0.13, right? Now this looks a little too thick for my liking, but then again, you won't know what your print will look like until you printed it out as a paper, or you put this on Illustrator. What print display does that, it gives you like a rough estimate on what your print will look like. So I think this is too thick. I'm just going to go with 0.25 or maybe 0.18. There we go. That looks a little better. And then I'll take half the value, which is 0.09, and that's my medium, right? Now, this is not my profile line, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to edit this. So I can double click onto our viewport, right? Make sure it's locked so you can actually zoom in. I'll select my curve that I want to fix, and I'll type in trim. Or actually, before I do that, I'll just select all the lines that are involved. I can type in trim. So I'm going to trim out this. So that way, you see, that black line is gone. I'm going to do the same thing with all these other black lines that are inside that are not my silhouette. So I can just select this, select the guys involved. Any small things that might be a distraction, I can also delete that as well. So the next one, this black one. And next one, this black one right here. Some weird lines. Get rid of that. Click out. Looks like I missed one. There's also another method called split. So you can select one of these lines, type in split, select your cutting object, which is this. Press enter, and you basically split your curves. So we got one curve right here, one black curve, and the other black curve right there because I split them. Now do the same thing. Split, select this, delete, split. Oh, screwed up. Should be in 2. Delete that. And right now, this is what our drawing should look like. See how clean it is, right? So what the black does, what the profile line does is that it flattens this 3D object into a 2D sticker, right? And it highlights our project, right? Now, I realize that my diagram is backwards, so I'm going to fix that. So I basically fixed my diagram's position, right? It should have been left to right, reading left to right. And I also noticed that some lines are not profiled, which is fine. You can always double click again. I grouped this, so I'm going to ungroup. Select my line, type in split. Select my line that I'm trying to split with. Press enter. Split this into 2, and then I'll move this into the correct layer because right now it's just medium, it's a gray layer. Move this into my heavy. Do the same thing right here. Split. Select this. And then we'll do heavy as well. Made an oopsie. Fix that. There we go. Medium. And I'll basically do the same thing with the entire diagram so you can see what it looks like when it's finished. Now, I haven't mentioned this before, but right now I only have a medium and a heavy, one that represents a profile line and the other that represents an elevation line. What I forgot to add is a back line, so I'm going to call this my light line. Spelt it wrong. Change the value from like a 40 to a 60, and the print width, basically the line weight, should be half of my medium. So I'll have it roughly 0.05. And where this occurs is basically anything that's not the face of your project. So something like right here and like right here and here. And we'll set it to our light. There we go. And then this will be our medium. And yeah, it should look just like this. There's a mistake right here. I can rearrange that by moving the points, deleting this, and extending this point. There we go. And that's what it should look like. All right, so I effectively finished my elevation. Sorry, not my elevation, my diagrams, the line weights and their colors, right? So again, heavy is your profile, medium is your elevation view or your elevation line, and your light is your back lines, meaning anything in the back or it's not the elevation of your view, right? So this is in the back, so that should be my light, right? Should look like this. Very easy to read, makes your diagrams extremely easy to read. All right, so what I'm gonna do is add a color for sequence, right? So again, I'll go to my diagrams, go to layers, type in sequence. Select a color. I have a pre-selected color, which is this, and I'll double click onto here, right? I'll type in the word hatch, make sure boundary is, I think, turned on, and I will select what I'll be hatching. So I'll do this as an example, press enter, right? And this is my sequence. So we started off with this black, these towers. Right now I'm selected on heavy, which is why it came out as a black color. It's all right, just press OK. As long as it's solid. We can always, again, change the layers. So, oh shoot, right here, layers, sequence. There we go. And then do the same thing. So, select the whole thing. Make sure I'm on my sequence layer. Type in hatch. And I'll type in everything that came in order. And this is what my diagram looked like after I finished, right? What I haven't added is text to explain what happened. So again, go to my text, my layout, type in text, and then I'll start adding text on how this is formed. So we can do a tower extrusion, right? I'll set the height of this text to be pretty small, maybe 0.05, right? Like here. If you want to, you can also rotate this same degree as um, your isometric. Move this down, tower extrusion, and then smart tool on. You can do this, align and adjust. Ramp. Press M, align, move here, stairs. Curved surfaces. Wall. And apertures. And that's our form diagram. That's one way to make a diagram. Now I'll talk about program diagram next. So right now I'm back at the original model, and to make a program diagram, which is really easy, all you're doing is deconstructing the model to its basic form. So a program diagram is effectively a diagram that talks about where rooms are placed, and they're as easy as just making blocks like this, right? So this is a program diagram right here. This is another one. This is another one, right? This is an isometric or axometric. No, I think it's isometric. And it's stacked on top of each other, right? It's just blocks. It's just the area. This is another one. So these are different ways to make a program diagram. I'll just make a beginner version, which is just blocks and colors. So right now we have our block right here, right? What I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this to axometric. So to turn this to axometric, I've left a script right here. But basically, you select your project, you rotate it by 45 degrees. Okay. And then what you're going to do is that you're going to type it. You're going to select this, type in shear. Okay. Make sure when you're doing this, you have your right view on right here. Right. So type in shear. Okay. I left the notes right here. Type in for origin point W0 W, right? Because what it looks like is that you're basically selecting the origin point of your world right here. Okay, press enter. Again, world point 0, 0, 1, and make sure you're on your right view when you're doing this, right? Press enter, and it'll ask you your shear angle. We're going to do -45 degrees, right? So now when we go to our top view, this is what our axometric will look like, right? Do the same thing with this as well, with the original model, right? So what's nice about axometric is that whatever angle it is, it's going to be measurable, right? So these angles right here are measurable. So using this, I'll do. Actually, I'm not a fan of where these towers are at, so I'm actually going to redo this. All right, so I made a new axometric, right? So the tower's not in the way, right? So again, these are the commands. You can pause the screen and do this. Anyways, again, I'm going to make 2D. Make 2D, right? Go back to my diagram. We'll go here. Right now, if you see text like this and they're scaled to your viewport, what you can do is that you can go to Tools, Options, Annotation, and disable all these. Press OK. So now your text should be to scale. Or no, it just disappeared. But anyways, here's Set this to shaded, right? Here's our model, isometric, and here is our diagram, our program. So I'll adjust this to something like right here. Okay. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hatch this. So I'm going to give it the line weights, and then I'll hatch this. I'll hatch it to its color. All right, to speed things up, I basically did this, and this is what your program diagram should look like. So you're basically hatching these, fixing the lines again, and then you're adding these boxes to talk about its program, right? So I'm not a fan that's not centered to the viewport, so I'm gonna just readjust this, something like this, lock it, and there we go. Now the line weights may be a little too thin, which is fine. We can always again make a new layer and then readjust the line weight to be a little thick, right? So it actually pops out more. But just for time constraint, because it's way over 30 minutes, I'll leave it like this. So that's a sequence diagram, and this is your program diagram. Now, quickly for me to do the environmental controls diagram, you kind of have two options. You can either make a floor plan and draw on it, or you can actually make 2D or an axometric, and again draw where your environmentals would work. So right now I'm just going to make one that's a section. So what I've done is that I've created a clipping plane right here, a clipping plane. I don't want to clip every object, so again I'll select objects clipped under my properties to include selected objects, select this, press enter. So now I'm only sectioning where I want to section. Again, you can do a floor plan or you can do a section. I'm just going to do a section right now. Take the most interesting angle, right, which is this. And then I'll do a make clipping drawing. Clipping drawings, right? Press enter. Okay. So how clipping drawing works is that the first thing I want to do again is unlock all these. Okay. Then what I'm going to do is select by layer right here. So display color by layer, slime type by layer, again, everything by layer. And I'll leave this alone. Looks like I missed one. Custom by layer and by layer. All right, cool. Now, anything that is, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna expand this and that right here. Select curve. So anything that's a curve is being cut, right? I'll put that into my heavy line. And then right here, anything that is, I'll deselect this, anything that is not being cut, I'll put that into my medium or my light line, depending how far away they are from the project or how much of a distraction they are, right? And then I can go back to my diagram, select my viewport, zoom onto here, right? This is a little too thin, so I'm going to delete these lines because they don't do anything anymore. Again, make my own heavy line, right? Call this heavy section. CTION. All right. And I'll set the view, the cutting to about 3.5. And go back. What I can do is that I can go back to top view to select all that's heavy, deselect all the ones I'm not interested in, and then I can move this into my section, my heavy section. Go back to diagrams, and there we go. Now it's reading much better. All right, I can do the same thing with the medium line, but for time reason, I'm not going to do that. Actually, I'll just do it just to make it look nicer. Medium, dark gray. Set this to half the value. And then go back to top view, select all my mediums, deselect, and then move the remaining into the medium section. Go back to diagrams, and now this reads a bit better, right? So what I can do is that I can also create arrows, right? So I can just call this like cooling arrow, right? Select the color, take my blue again. I'll give it a line weight, very thick line weight, 0.5. And then if you want to, you can start drawing over your line. So make sure you're not selecting on the viewport. I'm going to just lock this. And then I can type in sketch, right? Draw some arrows. Looks like I should turn off all these so I don't accidentally select my lines, and then I can just again sketch my arrows, right? And then I'll turn endpoint on or near. Make this arrow nicer. Hatchet. Oh, that's a bit too small. Scale this up. Move this from default to cooling arrow. And then if I want to, I should be able to hatch this. There we go. Change the layers. No, that looks awful. Not doing that. Keep it like this. And again, you want to label it, so I'll borrow this. Change the layer. Call it cooling. Cooling arrow, and then again, cooling. There you go. That's just one way. Very simple, right? It's very simple. Do the same thing. Let's just pretend that our program diagram let's use this. We can copy this, right? Set the color of all our hatches. Change the color. I'm just going to do white for now. Should have worked. Oh, I know why. This hatch. It's because I set my display by view. So do custom, should be white. I'll group this just in case. I have to come back to this. All right, so I don't know how much footage I actually lost because I accidentally paused without realizing I paused. But basically, you can have a section or floor plan, draw some arrows, right? Do the same thing, an axometric or an isometric view, have a plan like this. Up to you. You can make this a little detail as you want, but a good diagram is a clear diagram. It's simple, right? Once everything's aligned and perfect and organized and composed, you can type in print and print this to your PDF. And that's it.